Yeah, here I am, the original HBIC, Katie motherfucking Boyd. And on the first podcast of the new season, I am going to be filling you in on everything that has happened in the last couple months of my life, where I'm at now, what I've been up to, where I'm going, all in the hopes that I inspire you, I empower you, I remind you to remember who the fuck you are. And my biggest goal today is to help you make the rest of your life the best of your life by being the HBIC of that ambitious life. So, oh man, where do I even begin? I feel like I've been on one. I feel like I've been on a whirlwind. And I sent out an email to all of my ambitches from all across the globe earlier this week. And I was just talking about the big pause and what that means and how it's going to affect you. And, this summer really, truly for me, and this was my intention, the last couple of months have been this summer of stillness, of reflection, of renewal. And it truly was for me an intentional pause to listen to God, to speak with my guides, to humble myself, to ask for guidance, and really truly step into and embrace the next chapter of my ambitious life. And I wanted to come on here today and I wanted just to share my journey with you because I'm sure out there you've been living in the world that we're living in right now, and it has been chaotic and tumultuous. And unless you're living under a rock, it's been absolutely intense. And I kind of felt that that was coming because I understand what's going on out there. I also, as you guys know, follow astrology and the movement of the celestial bodies. So I get what's going on a much deeper level. And I also believe in a lot of stuff that has to do with God and religion. And a lot of these things that we're going through right now have been foretold to us. And we just go about our lives and we act like everything happens to us and not for us. And there's no, predestined things that are happening. And I think that that's actually really doing us as ambitious women a disservice. And I was just feeling really stuck. I was feeling like I was in deep desire for a reset in my life. And, I want you to know that even though a lot of you look at me and you're like, oh, Katie's got her shit together. I do. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't have my shit together. But what I will say is you're not alone when you feel stuck. You're not alone when you feel at an impasse, in confusion and cognitive dissonance. And, I just like you, I'm a human. I'm here as a spiritual being having this human experience. And I'm going to give you all of the tools that I have just used for my transformation over the last couple of months so that you can use these tools over the next couple of months in your own life so that maybe you step into 2026 as a brand new, polished, elevated, ascended you. And that's my dream. That's my goal. That's my hope. That's why I do what I do. I don't get paid to do this podcast. I don't make money from doing this podcast. I actually pay a lot of money to produce this podcast, but I know how many people listen to this podcast from all across the globe. And even when there's times where I'm like, oh God, this is such a waste of time. Why am I even trying? And I get like that too. I feel some sort of way all the time. But when I'm feeling like that, I have to remind myself that this is my mission. This is my definiteness of purpose as the HBIC of Ambitchious Land, right? As the original HBIC, to come here and to speak victory into each and every one of you, no matter where you are, what your age is, what your past has been. You can use these tools And the reason why I'm sharing these tools today is because not only are they tools, but I know that they work. And I'm going to talk a lot about that. So I want to fill you in on all those things. So let's kind of backtrack for a brief moment. I'm Portuguese, as you know. And one of these like old wives' tales that I grew up with was however you spend your New Year's Eve is how the rest of your year is going to go. And earlier in the year, if you've been following me on Instagram, and if you don't follow me, get over there to Katie Boyd Ambitchious on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, but I'm Katie Babine, Babine, which is my married name. But I do have a little Katie Boyd Babine, a little hyphenate, just because, people don't know my married name as much as my maiden name. But earlier this year, and I've been posting this all over my social media for the last couple of months. So if you do follow me, you'll probably know a lot of this. If you don't, I'm going to fill you in. So earlier this year, I was traveling like some kind of a globetrotter. I don't know who the fuck that I thought I was, but I was just traveling. And I remember being in Portugal in Lisbon, and I was standing on the balcony on New Year's Eve with my husband with a glass of champagne after we had just come back from a beautiful meal at one of my favorite restaurants in the world called Cura. It's in the Four Seasons Ritz in Lisbon. And I looked at him and I said, the way that you spend your new year is going to really dictate the rest of the year. And he was like, okay, what do you mean by that? Matt's a smarty pants, but he's Virgo, right? So he's not into all like these pomp and circumstance and old wives' tales and stuff. And he's like, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, if you spend your new year in opulence and abundance and wealth and very intentional, it's going to be almost like you're striking this match to create this bonfire of like what is going to come for the rest of the year. And so my whole life, up until now, I've always deeply desired to live as a wealthy woman, a high value woman, to prioritize my health, to have unfathomable freedom. You guys know that's one of my top core desired feelings. It is my number one. And one of the biggest things, as well, as I deeply desire to keep sacred promises to myself. And I've always been this way. And I was thinking about this, you know, think about how many generations before you have prayed for you without even knowing that you were going to exist. I grew up very Catholic. My grandmother, who pretty much raised me, my Nana Pearl, I was with her all the time. She was a God-fearing woman. She was very Catholic. I went to church with her every day and on Sunday. So every day before school, we would go to church. I sang in the choir. I went to Catholic school. So, Jesus and God have always been my number one. No matter where I went in my life, how spiritual I became, whatever I learned that was esoteric, I always kept Jesus first and foremost in my heart. And I remember at night before we go to bed, she would pray with me. And, she's like, I've been praying for you my whole life. And my mother prayed for her ancestors, and my great grandmother prayed for her ancestors. And I didn't realize it because I remember so much from my childhood with her. But it just struck me recently. I'm like, wow, think of how many of your ancestors have prayed for you. And you have this incredible opportunity in this day and age to live out all the dreams that they did not have the time or the privilege or the experience to do so. Like I always say to people, you are your ancestors' wildest dreams. And the older I get, the more I step into this elder, crone, wise energy, I think about this more and more and more. And a lot of my social media has been speaking about this. A lot of my teachings have been speaking about this. And I just think it's so important to not only keep sacred promises to yourself, but also keep the promises that your soul made to your ancestors to do all the things that they did not have the chance to do when they were here on this earth. So a lot of people will say to me, Katie, you like set your intentions so high and you set the bar so high and you set your goals so high. And I'm like, yeah, bitch, what is the alternative? Like, I don't know about you out there in Ambitchious land, but I don't want to live a mediocre life. I don't want to lay on my deathbed someday and say, coulda, shoulda, woulda. That is like one of my biggest. I'm not a fearful person by any means, but there's just this one thing that always kind of like gets up my ass sideways, and that is getting to your last part of your life and knowing that there were so many unopened gifts that you never delved into. And I also have said numerous times on this podcast, but I'm going to refresh your memory, that I believe that hell is when you die, meeting the person you could have been if only you tried, if only you did the big things, if only you'd stopped caring about what people thought of you and just did the thing. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to get to that place where I shuffle off my mortal coil and I go to wherever you go in this afterlife. I know I believe it's heaven, but meeting that person that you could have been if only you did the things that you were scared to do, that freaks me the fuck out. And I think that that to me is hell. That is the definition of hell to me. So when we were in Lisbon, Matt and I had like these really intimate moments about just creating that intentionality for each one of ourselves, but also for each other as a couple. Matt and I pride ourselves on being a very awakened, intentional couple. We're not just here to be each other's husband and wife. We're here because we know that we have this definiteness of purpose singularly, but also as a pair, as a couple. So we both vowed that 2025 was going to be this very opulent, abundant, free, exciting, intentional year. And so we got home from Lisbon and we hit the ground running. And then in about a month and a half, we were off to Dubai and Abu Dhabi with our really close friends, Clint Valadares and Dr. Amit Anand, who is going to be coming on the podcast. We filmed over the summer. Dr. Amit and Clint have created this incredible business called Breathinance. We're going to get into it in another podcast. But I went out to the Middle East with my husband, and we had the best time at this incredible speaking engagement called the Forum for Good. And it was my first time traveling to that part of the world, first class. Emirates was one of my dreams. It was always on my list of things that I wanted to do, and we did it. And I actually, so cool, I got to spend my 44th birthday in the sky, flying over the globe in first class, drinking my champagne, drinking my Aperol spritz, sleeping, watching television. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. Even all of the flight attendants and the pilots and everything that came out, they sang happy birthday to me. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. We had the best time in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And then we were there for about a week and we came home, check in on the dog, check in on the businesses. As you guys know, I have multiple businesses, but I have worked diligently over the last, handful of years to make sure that I have what I love to call the triple threat of freedom, which is time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom. And I have all three, thank God. So, whether I was in Portugal or whether I was in Dubai or, no matter where I am in the world, I'm still making the same exact amount of money. I'm not, a slave to my business. I'm working on the business. I'm not working in the business. And that's something that I desire for all of the women that I coach in Ambitchious Business Mentorship. But it was just so amazing to be able to like come home for a week, check on the dog, check on the businesses, and then I headed out to meet my super close soul sister and client, Candice Marino, the LA facialist, along with all of the incredible women that were at the Radiant AF retreat. Candice wanted me to come and speak on all the things that we Candace and I did together when we were doing our business mentorship together. And I just thought it was the most life-changing experience. We went to Costa Rica, to Imiloa, my good friend Jake Sassaville's incredible retreat space high in the mountains in Costa Rica. It was one of the most life-changing experiences. I feel that what I spoke about there and how I delivered my message really inspired and helped so many women that were part of the Radiant AF retreat. We're going to be doing another one in March, so stay tuned for that. And then I came home once again, and then we were back to Portugal with our dearest friends, Jeremy and Michelle. And when I got home from that trip, and that was like late April, early May, I was thinking, because I'm a very pensive person. I do a lot of deep thinking. I'm an Aquarius, so I'm always pulling things apart and thinking of how I could do things better and how I could take experiences and interweave them into my own life to make my own life better, more ambitious, right? And it's the craziest thing where when I got home from Portugal, I was thinking about how travel truly transforms your life. It opens your eyes to how other people live, especially when you're going to Dubai or Abu Dhabi and, there's this whole other code of how to live and how these people live. And it's so beautiful and it's so interesting and it's so inspirational. And, then you're also there's some things about different parts of the world that I don't like. And I love America for certain things that we have that other countries don't. And it just really it makes you feel so grateful. It opens your eyes to how other people live. It really helps you slow down and take a consensus of how your life is working and what's working, what's not working. And, when you go to Europe especially, you see how people all they care about is being with their friends, being with their families, slowing down, savoring meals. There's no rat race really. There's no like go, 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 go energy. It's really amazing to watch people, create beautiful environments filled with all their treasures. And, they don't have a lot, but the things that they have are very special to them. And travel also helps you set a very intentional place for more growth because when you see how other people live, when you see the wealth and abundance and opulence that's out there, it makes you desire to create, to serve, and to work even harder. And I don't mean harder in a like a grind way. I mean like smarter to create more wealth and abundance and to serve more and more and more people all over the world. So when I came back from Portugal, and I had these kind of aha moments, if you will. I realized one thing, and it was kind of jarring to me, where I realized that from the time that I had like my first job, which was probably around like 12 or 13 years old, I realized that I've never in my life, even with all the wealth and abundance and the freedom that I have, I never have had a summer just to truly do what I desired. And I vowed to myself that day that I was going to take a big pause, a big step back, and I was gonna take the summer off from doing anything, else more than what I was already doing, okay? And I was like, "I am really gonna make this time count. I'm gonna make it intentional. I'm gonna make it spacious. I'm gonna grow from this. I'm gonna learn from this, and I am gonna trust God, and I'm going to surrender, and I am going to understand that if you really truly are a child of the Most High God, you're gonna just surrender to the fact that, like, you are already full and you have everything that you need already inside of you. All you have to do is just show up and be in service and have your definiteness of purpose and mission, which I do. So I took the summer off from podcasting, from selling, from creating anything new. And I just did the baseline of what I do, right? I still worked with all of my clients in my business mentorship, which was always the love of my life. I absolutely adore doing that work. I taught my classes at KBMFC Wellness, my all women's wellness center in Hudson, New Hampshire. I educated on the app. I did live coaching. I added wonderful things there. I supported the ladies from all across the globe who coach with me on the app. And then on top of that, I did things that make my heart sing, right? I grew a beautiful garden. You can see all this, and I'm sure you have if you follow me on Instagram. So I grew a beautiful garden, and I planted flowers, and I created and ate nourishing food that just filled me up, not just physically, but my soul. I prioritize intentional movement, not killing myself in the gym, right? Like I used to when I was younger, but just very intentional movement, somatic movement, yoga, stretching, mobility, flexibility, all that. I focused on quality sleep. I focused on healing my hormones. If you haven't already listened to my hormone replacement therapy podcast with Dr. Applebaum, get over there and listen to it. We're going to get a little bit more into that today on the podcast because I want to fill you in on everything that's changed. And, working on shifting my hormones and really balancing my hormones was something so important to me because I have been going through perimenopause for some time now, only knowing that I have been for the last like year or so. Before I had no idea because everyone that I worked with before, all the doctors were like, "You're just too young for that." And I was like, "But I feel like a bag of smashed assholes. So am I losing my mind? Do I need some kind of lobotomy? What the hell?" And I volunteered at my service club. As you guys know, I'm the president of the Women's Service Club in Windham, New Hampshire. And that made me feel very connected, and it made me feel connected with my purpose and my mission. And I love giving back. And doing this and just being so intentional and slow and adopting the motion of Europe and of the Middle East and how people show up in the world, it really truly changed my life. And like I said, I stayed connected to all of my coaching, and around like midsummer, say like July, and it was around my wedding anniversary with my husband. And we were away for a couple of days. We had gone into the city to one of our favorite hotels called Raffles. If you haven't been there, it's fab. It's a Singaporean five-star hotel. It's incredible. And we were away, and I was really just thinking because, when you're away, you're not in that every day doing the stuff, right? Doing the do. And I was thinking, I was like, wow, one thing I realized over the summer, really being intentional with everything I was doing, I realized that I was still trying to show up in my life like the 25-year-old girl that I once was, that we all were, right? We were all that age. Maybe you're that age right now listening to the Ambitchious podcast, but I'm 44 now, and I realized that I was so unhappy and I was so misled and I was so just disjointed because I was trying to show up and I was romanticizing still the 25-year-old girl that I once was, instead of ignoring the incredible 44-year-old elder, wise woman, crone that I have evolved into. And that's a sacred journey. That's a sacred shift. You know how lucky you are to be able to say, "Hey, I'm 44," or "Hey, I'm 54," or "Hey, I'm 84 or 94." I mean, that's a privilege to be able to age. A lot of people don't have that privilege, right? Their lives were taken away from them at a very young age. And I realized I was romanticizing this idea of who I should be and how I should show up, and even how my body should look and how I should work out and how I should eat and how I should do all the things. And I vowed at that moment to fall in love with me now and show up for her, the 44-year-old. And once I made that very intentional standpoint with myself, everything just started to shift miraculously and rapidly. And I was praying my rosary one day, which I do every day. I love praying the rosary. I've done it my whole life. And during my rosary, I had this just very profound insight. And I was realizing that I was trying to just push through and act like I was still this person when I was not only ignoring my own needs as a 44-year-old woman in perimenopause, and I was somehow figuring out how to navigate this like next chapter of my life, like perimenopause and beyond. But while I was neglecting myself at this age, I was also neglecting the needs of all of my clients because 80% of my clientele that I work with is above the age of 35. And they say now that around the time of 35 is when most people are starting to shift into perimenopause, which is so crazy. And, when I was feeling bad around that age, I was going to my general physician, I was going to my gynecologist, and they were just like, you're just too young for this. And this is just like what happens. You just kind of have to deal with it. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But when I realized that I was doing such a disservice to not only myself, but my clients, it really just something snapped in me. And while I was praying the rosary, this idea for the positive protocol came. That's why I'm calling this podcast The Big Pause. And it's not positive, positive, but like menopositive or perimenopausive, which is pausitive, right? IVE. And when this kind of snapped into my brain, I was like, oh my God, the positive protocol. This is like the next chapter. And what is the positive protocol? I said to my spirit guides. And I heard the words that the positive protocol is a transformational blueprint designed to guide women through this sacred transition of perimenopause and beyond. And the coolest part is like my 25-year-old young self would have just been like, oh my God, I came up with this idea. We all have to do this. Ah. And my 44-year-old self was like, no, you're going to do this yourself. You are not going to just write this down on paper. You are going to implement it. You're going to live it. And you are going to be the guinea pig for this. And you're going to prove to yourself that this works. And then if it works, then you can tell your clients about it. Then you can podcast about it. Then you can do the thing. So I created the positive protocol for myself over the summer. And in 12 weeks, and I'm really proud to say this, I released 20 pounds. I balanced my hormones. I gained total relief from all of my symptoms of perimenopause, like horrible periods where I would have to wear legit a diaper. I know, sexy. Sleepless nights, right? Waking up at 3 a.m., your brain doesn't turn off, you can't go back to sleep. You're wake up in a just covered and drenched in sweat. You have such bad brain fog that you just think you're becoming demented. I know this sounds drama, but if you're in this age, you can totally attest to this. I had such severe joint pain, like every part of my body always hurt. I had plantar fasciitis. I had a frozen shoulder. I had a torn rotator cuff. And I healed it all. I healed the joint pain. I healed the brain fog. I got rid of the horrible periods. I'm sleeping through the night. My frozen shoulder and my rotator cuff are totally healed. And I did it all by myself. I went to a surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon. He pretty much told me, like, you have a torn rotator cuff and this is what's happening. And you're going to have surgery. And I was like, hey, what about these peptides, BPC 157 and TB 500? And he looked at me and he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, give me 8 weeks, hold my beer, and I went and I did this all by myself. I'm going to teach you guys how as well, not in today's podcast, but down the road, because I think it's so important. And I think that these kinds of peptides are going to be the future of longevity and health in our world. I healed my plantar fasciitis that had been plaguing me for 3 years. Now, let me just take a little side kind of note over here. And I want to tell you that there is a definite positive correlation with frozen shoulder and plantar fasciitis, as well as joint pain and all these other things. There is a direct correlation with perimenopause. And no one is correlating this in the world of medicine, which I think is so insane because I'm not a fucking doctor. And, I can make correlations. That's part of, the scientific method. Just saying. And I totally healed my frozen shoulder. My orthopedic surgeon could not believe it. And I had arthrograms, which is when they do an MRI and they shoot dye into your shoulder capsule, which is not pleasant by any means. And I went back and had another one and he was like, how the hell did you do this? You literally, how? Like you healed your own shoulder. Like, I've never seen this before. And I was like, I did it with peptides. And he was just like, I have to look into this. And I was like, yeah, you should. But these peptides are not just for frozen shoulder or torn rotator cuffs. You may have problems with your knees, your ankles, your hips, joints in your bodies, just repairing in general, because when we hit this time in our lives, 35 and above, it's really difficult to heal after you work out or you hurt yourself. And as you get older, the healing, it just gets less effective and worse over time. And listen, we're all going to go through these phases in our lives as women. It's inevitable, but I'm here to tell you that we do not have to suffer. Through modern medicine and eating a certain way and moving your bodies a certain way and becoming grounded and intentional with your lives, you can have the most beautiful life after you're navigating this sacred journey from perimenopause into menopause and beyond. I increased my bone density, which is so incredible. I gained way more muscle, which is awesome. My body fat went down significantly. I released 20 pounds in 3 months, and I feel more vibrant in my body now than I did in my 20s, and I have become even tougher and more fierce with my boundaries, if that's possible. So, I radically changed my life and my approach to health during this big pause over the summer. And I want to tell you all the things that I started doing. Okay. And I'm going to be documenting this. We're doing a YouTube series on it right now. So stay tuned for that as well. But some of the things that I started doing was I started rucking 5 days a week for an hour a day with a 40-pound weight vest. Very difficult, but I'm telling you, one of the best workouts in the world, overall body workout. And you get so strong and so muscular when you do this. I actually stopped fasting and intermittent fasting altogether. You guys know for years I've been a huge proponent of fasting, which I still am, and there's still times for it and there's still therapeutics for it. But right now, with where my hormones are at and my cortisol, and my fight or flight response and my nervous system responses, it's just not the vibe to be doing intermittent fasting and fasting right now. So I immediately upon waking, get up, have my electrolytes, have my keto chow, and from there, I eat breakfast first thing. And a little fun fact, this is the first time I've ever talked like this on my podcast, but I'm so excited. And I'm here to say to you, are you on a quest for an easy, delicious, and keto-friendly fuel? Well, we've got some exciting news here on the Ambitchious podcast. Keto Chow, the leading meal replacement company dedicated to supporting a ketogenic lifestyle, is now the official sponsor to the Ambitchious podcast. So imagine a quick, convenient way to get all your essential nutrients, from healthy fats and proteins to vitamins and minerals, in one yummy shake. That's Keto Chow. Whether you're crushing your workouts, busy with work, or just looking for a tasty way to stay on track, Keto Chow is your go-to hero. And here's the best part. To celebrate, Keto Chow is offering 10% off of all products just for you, our loyal Ambitchious listeners. So all you have to do after this podcast is scroll down to the show notes and click on that link to get your code, the code that we have obtained for you to have 10% off of all of your Keto Chow order. So why wait? Fuel your ambition, stay keto, and save big with Keto Chow, the meal revolution that keeps you energized, satisfied, and thriving on your journey. That's Keto Chow, the proud sponsor of the Ambitchious podcast, your partner in living your most ambitious life. Now go get your shake on. And one of my favorite parts of Keto Chow, and this is what I do first thing in the morning, and this is what I've changed immensely, is I love their salt electrolytes. I used to use an electrolyte company that had maltodextrin in the electrolytes, and now Keto Chow just uses stevia, which I love, and it tastes so much better than any other electrolyte packet on the market. My favorite is Endless Summer. Oh my God, it's so good. That's my favorite flavor. And what I do is first thing in the morning, I get up, I put a package of salt, Keto Chow salt, in my water. I drink that down. And then I have my breakfast, which is usually a Keto Chow meal replacement shake. Then I have my coffee. Because what I used to do is I would get up in the morning, not hydrate, have 2 cups of black coffee, and then I would just fast all day. And then I was like, why can't I lose weight? Why do I feel so fluffy? Why do I have cellulite all over my body? Why do I have a double chin? Why are my boobies sagging down to my kneecaps? And now, just in 3 months, I feel totally different just implementing that one little thing into my morning. And like I said, I do not fast anymore. And what I've been doing is I've been eating 4 to 5 meals a day. And I have been making sure that I get 1 gram of protein per ideal pound of body weight. What does that mean? Let's just say, for sake easy math, you weigh 150 pounds, but you feel amazing when you're 130 pounds. So you want to focus on getting 130 grams of protein per day, especially at this age. Protein is the most important macronutrient when you're going through perimenopause and menopause and beyond. The second is fat. And carbs are really not that big of a deal. I mean, obviously, if you want a little bit of fruit, a little bit of carbohydrates, just make sure it's not shit. It's not starchy. It's not pasta. It's not white bread. It's not junk stuff like that. And like just sugar in general. So that's one of the things that I stopped doing altogether was the fasting and eating that way. I also pretty much quit alcohol. I may have like 1 glass of white wine once a week or every couple of weeks on a special occasion. But I realized that in my perimenopause journey, one of the things that was really fucking me up and just making me feel terrible, and it was waking me up at 3 in the morning to pee. I was waking up and like just covered in sweat. I was getting super hungover only from a couple of drinks. Like I would get white girl wasted and just so hungover the next day. I felt like shit. And I'm like, it's like I'm a high value woman. I have a busy lifestyle. I cannot be losing 2 days from a hangover from like 2 glasses of wine to get a little buzz going. Like get no more. So I totally stopped alcohol. Like I said, I started incorporating the protein supplements, getting, a massive amount of protein every day. I stopped doing these hardcore, nasty, beat your shit out of yourself, whip yourself like a flagellite in like the Crusades over and over again. These nasty, just mean workouts. I was doing workouts that were so mean to myself. It was like this self-loathing energy. And I really shifted my workouts into obviously doing resistance training, but doing it in a totally different way, incorporating mobility and flexibility and somatic exercises and myofascial release, not only to open my body up, but also move any stored, stagnant, low vibrational, stuck, trauma, yucky energy out of my body. Because movement just creates that motion to move all that this yuck energy. I started really prioritizing my self-care every day, from literally like taking a beautiful bath with my favorite bath salts from Little Fox, Lil Fox. Their bath salts are next level. Going out barefoot and walking in the grass and in my garden and just grounding first thing in the morning. Having those self-care Sundays where, I put oil in my hair and I, put a mask on and I paint my toenails and just little things like that that just make you feel good. And I never used to do this before. And it's really crazy how I'm working out less and not as hard, but my body looks better than it has in a really long time. I am really focused on scheduling at least 2 days a week of total rest days. And that means like active rest days. Like you can stretch if you want to go on a walk with a friend, whatever. You want to work in the garden, that's fine. But really saying like, I'm going to really rest and recover. Because if I'm doing ruck 5 days a week for an hour a day, and I'm doing the positive protocol movements, the resistance training with all of the somatic exercises and the flexibility, etc., then I need at least 2 rest days a week just to let everything kind of grow and go back to where it was before and better, right? I started really scheduling my sleep and having pristine sleep hygiene, right? Like not looking at any phones or any electronics or TV before bed, at least an hour before bed, putting all the lights off in my house, not having like overhead lights on during the nighttime, not eating super close to when I'm going to go to sleep. And I've also added some really cool supplements into my nighttime rotation, which is a magnesium melatonin stress relief supplement before bed, which has been helping me immensely with those. When you're going through perimenopause and menopause, you usually have like these 3 a.m. horrible wake ups where you can't turn your brain back off. And I haven't had that at all since I've been doing that. I've been working closely with a team of doctors, not only my hormone replacement doctors at Men's Health Boston, Dr. Applebaum, and my soul sister, Nora. They've been helping me immensely with my hormone replacement therapy, my peptides, and just taking care of my overall health. But I've been making sure that, I'm going to see my gynecologist. I'm going to see my primary care when I'm supposed to. I am also working with people on alternative medicine and supplementation and vitamins and all those types of things. And I'm making sure that my labs are on point. That's one thing I hear so many women say, like, oh, I haven't had lab work. And I went to my doctor and they said, oh, you don't need labs. Hormones are different every day, every hour. And it's like, okay, that's called medical gaslighting. Get a new doctor. If your doctor wants to give you medicine without knowing anything else about your life, about what you're eating and how you're living and whatever, and they are saying that you don't need labs, get a new doctor. You are being medically gaslit and it's a form of abuse. And I have a whole new team of doctors now and they are fucking stellar. They're the best in the world, not just in Boston, but in the world. And they have totally helped me immensely. Like I was talking about before about my good friends, Clint Valadares and Dr. Amit Anand, who's going to be coming on the podcast very soon. I have been doing their breath work through Breathinance every day. It's been helping me just feel so connected to myself, so grounded. And on top of that, I meditate every day. I do the rosary every day. I love Mother Mary. So that's one of my favorite things to do every day. And I also, when I came home from Costa Rica, I met she is my long lost sister. Her name is Michaela McLean. She is a human design expert. She's actually on the podcast this season as well. Stay tuned for that. She's going to blow your mind. And I got really super in tune with my human design, which I'm a manifesting generator. And I also have this split, and it's called the role model hermit split. And we'll talk about that in the podcast with Michaela. But one of the things that I realized about myself was sometimes I try to push myself just way too hard because I still have this very toxically girl boss, like masculine energy. And there's like, that's the shadow side of me. And I'm working on that. But I always am like, I could do more. I could do more. I can do more. And, Michaela was saying to me on one of our sessions, she's like, Katie, but you have this split and it's the role model hermit. And all you need to do is you need to stop telling people what to do and just show them what you're doing as the role model. And the right people who desire to be better will be attracted to you and they will work with you and you'll find your soul tribe, and the rest will be polarized away from you. And either way, that's okay. But at the same time, when you're working so hard and when you're serving so much because of your split, that hermit split, you have to realize that you have to go into these quiet places to retreat so that you can regain your energy. And that was one of the things that I was really having a difficult time with for at least the last 10 years, was always feeling like such a loser if I would like just take time off from work and I would isolate myself. And I just felt like the need for it. But I was like, oh, this is not a good trait. And Michaela's like, it's actually a superpower. So you're going to be really excited to listen to the podcast with Michaela McLean. And I'm going to have her on more podcasts because she's just a fucking genius and she's so interesting and she saved me in so many ways and she changed my life. Because when you start to really know yourself, you can stand deeper into your power and you can have better boundaries and you can live a better life because you know who you are and what makes you tick. And if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything, right? So I have totally changed myself with Michaela, working with her on my human design aspects. And I also readopted and changed some of my core desired feelings because the old core desired feelings that I've had for a while just weren't aligning. Of course, I'm always going to have number one, freedom, as my numero uno core desired feeling. And we work a lot about CDF, core desired feelings, on my app. And I do this a lot with my Ambitchious mentorship clients because it's so important to know how you desire to feel when you're working, when you're living your life. But I adopted some new core desired feelings, and they were way more feminine, way more intentional, and way more focused. And I feel so good with those core desired feelings now. Between that and the human design, it's totally changed my life. So, kind of just to recap, within those 12 weeks, I lost 20 pounds. I feel stronger than ever, more energized, and better than I ever have in my 20s. And I proved to myself that I could do it all and I could change my life, even though doctors in the past and my as well as my gynecologist just pretty much said to me, the way that you feel and what you're going through is pretty much inevitable, and it's just part of getting older, and there's nothing you can do about it. And my team of doctors now all are in agreement that say, yes, this is inevitable, but with modern medicine and just, knowledge is power, you don't have to suffer. And I stopped suffering. And when you're not in a place of suffering, you can focus on bigger things like serving and creating more wealth and affluence and abundance and taking care of your body better and just being a overall happier, more joyful HBIC, right? And I am so passionate about these tools that I've created through the positive protocol. And another thing that really helped me immensely over the last 3 months is really knowing my body. Because my whole entire life, and listen, I've had DEXA scans, I have a body fat tester, I've been tested my body fat a million times by my past coaches, measurements, all that kind of stuff. But to really deepen my health journey, I invested in what's called a Hume Bod Pod, and it measures your body fat percentage, your metabolic age, which was fucking eye-opening. Oh my God. When I first did my DEXA scan, now mind you, I'm 44 years old, but my metabolic age was 52. Oh, I was like, am I the fucking crypt keeper? What's happening right now? And all of my other clients who have bod pods, their metabolic ages are pretty crazy too. But what's so cool is as you get better, you lose the weight, you up the bone density, your body fat comes down, your muscle fibers go up. You can actually see it. It's measurable, it's quantifiable data, which I love. And having this Hume Bod Pod at my house is like having a DEXA scan at home, and it changed the way that I experience the scale. And it's not just about weight anymore, right? It's about true holistic health, which, I don't know about you, but to me, that is super duper important. And Hume is also now an official sponsor of the Ambitchious podcast. So if you scroll down to the show notes and you click on that link, you're going to receive $20 discount on your own Hume Bod Pod. And it's one of the most incredible things that I have bought in a really long time that has to do with my health. And I'm telling you, seeing your numbers and, the first day you do it, you're fucking disappointed because you're like, oh my God, what the fuck? But every week that you get on your bod pod and you do that whole, rundown, and every week you can see your weight going down, you can see your body fat going down, you can see your muscle fiber going up, you can see your bone density going up, and you can see your metabolic age coming down. To me, there's nothing better. So if you're ready to invest in your health and use this incredible tool, scroll down to the show notes after this podcast is over and click on that link, and you will receive $20 off your own in-home Hume Bod Pod. So the other thing that I want to talk to you guys about today, and this is so, so, so important, is remember how I was talking about when we first started the podcast today about romanticizing your life, right? And so I want to just finish this podcast up today because I just took you on a journey, right? We just talked about everything that has gone on in my life, not to be like, oh my God, it's all about me, even though it is. It is me in the Ambitchious podcast, but it's about you too because I am you and you are me. And what I mean by that is we all hit these places in our lives where we just feel like shit. We feel like a bag of smashed assholes. We feel stuck. And I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I'm going to be like raw and trigger warning. Okay. So if you have suicidal ideations, like just stop listening right now and fast forward. But one of the things that freaked me out the most when I had this kind of awakening over the summer was the fact of the matter that before I came to these conclusions about where I was in my life with my hormonal journey and my perimenopause journey, before I found my team of doctors, before I started eating and showing up and living this new lifestyle, I was having such bad depression. I was having such bad anxiety. I was so sad and so angry, and I just felt like I was just crawling out of my skin. And I remember, having these massive out of body experience anxiety attacks, which does go hand in hand with perimenopause when your hormones aren't balanced. And I was having these all the time to the point where I didn't want to leave the house some days. And I said to myself in my mind's eye, if this is the way that I have to live for the rest of my life, like, I don't know if I want to continue to be here. And if you really know me, that is not who I am. I am not dark and depressed and fucked up like that. Okay. And like, we've all had hard times in our lives. We've all had difficult times in our lives. And I'm sure that there's been times in your life where you're like, God, this is really hard. Life is really hard. And I don't know if I can keep doing this. And I don't know if I can keep holding this space. But it got to the point where I said to myself, like, I have everything in my life that I've ever wanted in my entire life. Everything I ever dreamt about as a little girl, I have it. I have the home, the man, the business, the friends, the clients, the dog, the family, the relationships, the car, I can buy whatever I want whenever I want. I can go wherever I want whenever I desire to. I have freedom. I have a voice. I'm strong. I'm powerful. I'm smart. I'm all of the things that I ever dreamt of as a little girl. And I was so fucked up because I was like, I have everything I've ever desired. And I feel so fucked up. And it scared the actual shit out of me. And that's when I really said, I need to go see someone. And that's when I found my team of people that I'm working with now. And thank God for them. They saved my life. I'm here to tell you, if you are part of my team, you saved my life because I was in such depths of despair at certain moments in my life that I just didn't know if I wanted to be here anymore. Like, that was definitely an option. Now, while I don't feel even close to that, not even an inkling of that, I feel so grateful and so privileged because now I have everything I've ever desired, and I have the joy and the health and the energy and the happiness and the gumption back in my life and the motivation. So if there was ever a time in the last couple of years, guys, that you were like, wow, Katie's not herself, or she's fucked up, or what the fuck is wrong with her? She's acting crazy. I'm here to tell you I was fucked up and I was crazy and I was going through a really hard time, and I was holding it away from most of you. I mean, my really close friends knew what was going on, but I'm a very secretive person, and I'm very, um, yeah, it's funny because people are like, "You're not. You tell us everything." But there's parts of me that I keep very close to my heart. And I think a lot of it has to do with betrayal trauma. A lot of it has to do with the fear of judgment and criticism, which I'm not a very fearful person, but those are some of the aspects from how the devil keeps you in drifter hypnotic rhythm mentality. But now I feel like I'm truly stepping into that romanticizing this phase of my life, and it's so exciting. And I want to talk to you guys about romanticizing your own life and the things that I have been doing to do that. Because, like I said, if you are feeling, and maybe it's not perimenopause, maybe you're just going through a really difficult time in your life and you're stuck and you're confused and you're like, where do I go next? And what's the next step? And I don't want to make a bad decision and I don't want to, fuck up. So it may not be perimenopause, it may be something else, okay? Your parent could be sick, or you could be going through divorce, or your child might have addiction, or, whatever you're going through. All of us are different. You might just be living in the world going, wow, everything's a little crazy right now, and I feel like not so fresh, and I feel scared, and I feel overwhelmed, and I don't know what to focus on. So I'm here to tell you, just stop what you're doing and listen to what I'm going to say to you, because this is so important. So what my deepest desire from this podcast today is, I would love for you to truly let the old you die and stop romanticizing her. Love her. for she was part of your evolution up until now, but she has no place in the next level of your ascension of where you're going in your ambitious life, right? You learned from her, you fucked up from her, you had great times too, and she will be with you forever. But I really deeply desire for you to think, who is the next version of me and how am I going to make it great? And to start romanticizing her and stop romanticizing the past versions of you. So this is how I did it. So everything I just said, plus these 7 aspects. So the first thing I did to really stop romanticizing that 25-year-old perfect ass, perky tits, washboard abs, no double chin, okay? No bleeding into a diaper, punani drier than a cat's ass, okay? Is I reflected on my growth, number 1. So I recognized and I appreciated the positive changes that I've made within my life. And I started to really use my journal to reflect on all of the progress that I've made in my new achievements towards this next phase of myself. So I said to myself, okay, I was the maiden and then I was the mother, even though I never had children of my own. You know, I was a stepmom and still am to my husband's daughter, Karina, from his first marriage, who has been my child for the last 15 years. And I'm leaving that mother phase, even though I'm always going to be her mom, but I'm leaving that motherhood phase and I'm stepping into the wise crone elder energy, the high priestess energy, the queen, the regal, the medicine woman energy. And that is who I'm embodying now and will be embodying going forward. And the way to really do that is to really think about like how far you've come, but who you desire to be going forward. And I desire to be a role model for young women. And I always say to myself, and I say this to myself, I say this to my clients who I coach, because I was having a conversation with one of my clients, Nicole Goldsmith, who's an esthetician in Massachusetts. And I met her at the Radiant AF retreat and I just fell in love with her. We would walk home every night together in the dark back to our little yurts in Costa Rica. And I just fell in love with her. And we were talking about the other day how she was working with another coach, that the other coach was saying, like, you have to work on your ideal client avatar, which is very played out and is an old way that a lot of coaches coach people. And I used to do the same thing, which whatever. We'll talk about that at a different time. But I was saying, we were talking on the phone the other day and she was like, "Oh my God, I was listening to an Instagram post that you said the other day. And on it, you had said, you are always your ideal client when you were at your lowest point in your life." And she goes, "And thank you for saying that, because I was working with this other coach and they were saying like, you are not your ideal client avatar." And I'm like, yes, you are. Because think about it. You are always, if you have a business, especially a service business, think about like if you're an esthetician, let's just say for sake of conversation, or let's just say esthetician, because I work with so many estheticians from all over the world. Let's just say you're an esthetician and you had really bad cystic acne, right? You remember what that was like to have those boils on your skin and have to put 50 pounds of makeup on top of your skin and just get through the day. Who did you need at that moment when you had cystic acne to help you heal that skin issue? Be the esthetician that you needed when you were going through the lowest point in your skin journey. Or, if you are a coach in the wellness world, like I am, I always try to be the Katie that I needed when there were no Katies back in the day. And I'm here to say to you, reflecting on your growth is also stepping into that energy of that wise crone medicine woman and say, who did I need when I was at my lowest point in my life, or when I was for my younger self? Be that woman now, today, for you and all the people around you, and you're going to have a very ambitious life. The second thing that I started doing, and this is, I'm not a snowflake. I don't get triggered often. I really don't. But Number 2 is a great way to identify your triggers. So notice when you're being nostalgic for your old you. Like, I remember my good friend, Marlene Kalitz, who was the owner and the manager of the Miss New Bedford pageant years ago when I was Miss New Bedford. And I had asked her for something the other day, some videos and some pictures that she had had, and she had sent them to me. And it's so funny because I got this video of me in 2004 walking in the Miss New Bedford pageant, and I was ripped. My body was incredible. And my body was so fucking good. And it's so crazy to me because I thought I needed more work on my body. I thought I was fat. I thought I could get in better shape. And I actually had other women who used to run certain pageants say that, I really needed to work on my fitness. Now, mind you, they were 400 pounds, but that's neither here nor there. You know who the fuck you are. That was so detrimental, what you did to me and what you did to other women. But, karma's a bitch. I'll let God, I'll let God handle that. But when I was watching that video, I started being like, oh my God, I can get my body back to that place. I can look like that again. And I was like, no, why would you want to? I know the sacrifice and the horrible life that I had at that moment in time when I was trying to get so ripped for that competition. So when you start to feel that nostalgia and you start to go back to those times in your life, like when your body was amazing, or, you had this marriage that was amazing that maybe fell apart or whatever, you gotta start understanding that when you're feeling that nostalgia and you're longing for the old version of yourself, it's just old parts of you dying. So don't let yourself get sucked into that energy. Just be like, okay, I'm thinking another thought. I am going to think about the future version of me and who I am evolving into, and give the energy to that version of yourself instead of romanticizing, the size 0 fucking Bratz doll bobblehead that you used to be when you were younger. Okay. The next thing, number 3, and this is so hard for me, but I'm going to be honest, I've been doing it. So we got to practice self compassion. So to romanticize the new you, we really truly have to be kind to ourselves. We have to give ourselves some grace and some compassion about your past and also your present. Because, just because you're evolving into this next version of yourself doesn't mean that everything is going to be perfect all the time, right? So accepting that true growth in any way, shape, and form truly involves change, and to know it's a journey, it's a continuous journey, and you're not going to stop that journey until you take your last breath. There is no real destination, there is no finish line. The doing is the thing. And that's why I always tell people, when you're doing the do, have joy and excitement. Don't be like, oh, when I get to the place of the next version of myself or the next goal or the destination, then I'll be happy, because I'm here to tell you, you will not be. Look at what I just said about 10 minutes ago. I was so depressed because I was like, fuck, I have everything that I've ever dreamt of in my life, and I'm still not happy. And I'm actually more sad and fucked up and depressed than I've ever been in my life. Now, a lot of that had to do with my hormones. That's fine, but it didn't feel good. So practice that self-compassion. Give yourself some grace, please. Okay. Number 4 is set new goals. Stop thinking about the old goals. Stop, like, again, romanticizing those old goals. Like, let them drop like rotten fruit from a tree. Surrender to the new you by setting new goals, by focusing intently on your current passions, the things that light you up, the things that breathe God and the universe into you and the Holy Spirit into you. Think about your future aspirations, your desires, which always reinforce your ever evolving identity. So set new goals and focus on those new goals. And every time you feel yourself going back to what I could have, should have, would have, fuck it, let it go. Focus, put your blinders on and focus on the new. The next one, and this is something I really worked so diligently on over the summer, it was creating new memories, number 5. So engaging in activities that align with your present self while building new experiences and new associations, right? If you want to have something you've never had before, you have to do things that you've never done before. So what did I do to do that? I changed the way I moved my body. I focused on being in tune with nature, gardening, planting flowers, beautifying my home, beautifying my yard, right? Golfing, focusing on different things from the past, right? Helps so much romanticize the next version because now you have all these beautiful new memories and you're so excited about the next stage of memories that you're going to create. And you're not always thinking of like, those were the days. You know what I mean? Like, you're not like always thinking about like the old times. Like that song, Glory Days. Remember that song, like Glory Days from Billy Joel? That used to be like one of my favorite songs in the whole entire world. And I think about that now, and like, that song was sucked because they were all just talking about who they used to be and how the best years were behind them. And I am here to tell you that the best years are ahead. There's things that are so fucking exciting and so inspirational and going to change your life that you don't even know about yet, that haven't even come into your life yet. How exciting is that? I really truly believe that the best years, the best experiences in general are going to be down the road. And number 6, this is so hard for me. And for all of you little ruminators out there, you're probably shaking your head in ambitious land being like, uh-huh, honey, stop ruminating. So when you catch yourself romanticizing and ruminating, right, that means like perseverating, thinking about things over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. When you catch yourself doing that, gently just redirect your thoughts to the present moment. Think about your current accomplishments, your current goals, your dreams, your aspirations for now and then the future. Because again, that coulda, shoulda, woulda energy is not healthy for you. It's not helping you go to the next level by any means. And last but not least, this is so important, guys. Seek support. Talk to your friends, people that you're close to, people that are going to listen to your big dreams, goals, and aspirations. They're not going to get jealous and they're not going to tell you that you're crazy and that you cannot do it. Maybe it's your family that are your confidants. Maybe it's a counselor, maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a priest or a pastor or a minister or a coach, right? Maybe you need to hire a damn coach, a life coach or some kind of evolutionary coach that's going to help you stick to your goals and hold you accountable. And you're also going to get, fresh perspective, new encouragement, and that is so important. I'm a coach and I have multiple coaches in all different arenas because for me to put out the amount of energy and service, I have to also fill up my own cup. And sometimes you have to ask people that are not in your inner sanctum because they're going to give you way more serious, truthful, honest feedback than someone who is in your inner circle, right? So, I hope that you enjoyed this. You may hear Pearl in the background snoring, my little Nepo baby dog, who's just laying under my feet right now in front of a beautiful heater because she loves the heat. So if you hear any snoring, I'm not passing gas. It's my dog. It's Nepo baby Pearl. But I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. I am so excited for this season. I think it's going to be one of the best seasons yet to date. And in the meantime, head on over to kbmfc.com. And there is a plethora of different things over there that you can get into, whether it's joining the Ambitchious app or applying for a membership at KBMFC Wellness, a VIB membership, a very important bitch membership, or maybe you are desiring to become part of my business mentorship program. And there is an incredible questionnaire over there on the KBMFC website as well. So if you're looking to go to the next level and live the rest of your life, the best of life, and become the HBIC of your ambitious life, head on over to kbmsc.com. Check out what we have coming up. We have some incredible events coming up. We have a Bitchapalooza coming up as well. And there's just so many incredible opportunities to do some ambitious stuff over there. So head on over to kbmc.com and check out all of the events and services and ways to work with me. If you feel like this podcast was valuable and inspirational and motivational, and maybe someone in your life needs a little pick me up, send them this podcast. And if you do share it on your social media, don't forget to tag me. And I'm going to be giving out some beautiful Ambitchious gifts to all of the ladies in Ambitchious Land who are our biggest ambassadors and our biggest supporters. We also created an ambassador program where you will get freebies and swag and all kinds of amazing Ambitchious gifties. So if you want to also apply to our Ambitchious Ambassador program, you can also do that over on the app. All of these links will be in the show notes as well. And I'm just so excited for this new Ambitchious podcast season. I am going to give you so much value, and our guests are going to be stellar. And one of my goals this season is just to become a little bit softer, a little bit more open, a little bit more vulnerable, because that's what I'm craving in my life, is just to connect on a deeper level with all of you out there in Ambitchious Land. And also, little extra kudo. If you head on over to iTunes and you give us a 5-star and written review, and I read it on this podcast going forward, I'm going to send you a beautiful, beautiful gift in the mail, just for a big, warm gratitude. Thank you for being part of our Ambitchious movement. You know, the more women that wake up and choose to become the HBICs of their ambitious life, wouldn't the world just be a way better place? I don't know about you, but that's what I believe. So in the meantime, don't forget to stay ambitious, and I will see you next Tuesday.